hello. Welcome back to Two Dumbbell Blondes. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Katie. And before we get started, just a reminder, whatever platform you are listening on, please give us a follow and a 5-star rating. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and give this episode a like. So today we have Mechelle Freeman, the queen herself. I'm going to toss it over to Lindsay to give a little intro.
Yes, I am super excited for this episode. Now, I know Mechelle is a highly sought after woman, especially after the most recent Olympics because of her involvement in it. She has a history herself with competing, but more so than that, what I'm excited to hear from with Mechelle is just her passion and her drive with everything that she does, from her corporate career that she had to leading a track girls program that gets exposure to these young women to have more opportunities in their life. So really, this could go lots of different directions, but whatever way it goes, it is going to be exciting, and Mechelle is going to bring that energy. So with that, I'll hand it over to you to kind of kick us off with how did you get into just sports in general, track and field? Like, where did it all begin?
Oh man, when I think about when everything first started, I have to go back a few years.
Just a few.
Just a few. I don't want to give away my age, but I started running track in high school. I was introduced to sports at a very young age with my twin sister. Naturally, just trying to figure it out. What were we good at? What were we interested in? And sports just stuck out because we were really, 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 really good. But we were known as the Fast Twins. My first sport was basketball, and the basketball coach forced us to become the soccer team. And from there, they just knew us for our speed. And by the time we got in high school, they were like, "You have to try out for the track team." And we did, and realized that we were truly gifted and talented in a space that we got full scholarships to go to the University of South Carolina. So, track and field has changed my life. It's definitely been an access point for my development as a young girl, as a woman today. But I'm just truly grateful for what the sport has done for me. So I still live in the benefits of being introduced to track and field today.
Now, were your parents athletes? Like, what was this genetic thing? Because you're so gifted and you're like, I'm really, really fast. Were your parents fast?
Yeah, they always had that argument of who we get it from. But my mom never ran organized track. But I just saw my family over the weekend. They were letting me know that my mom is fast. She was fast running in the streets, and I need to recognize that I got my speed from my mom. And then my dad's side, he was in the military, so he ran track for the Army. He played football in high school, and so he has a little bit more evidence behind his talent. So he's been using that through the years, but I just credit them 50-50 just to stay neutral.
Yeah, your dad has the resume. Your dad has the resume, but your mom has like the real
action.
Gritty.
Yeah.
We're gonna give her some credit for that.
Okay, so then you went to college, you ran track in college, and then what happened?
So my sister and I were there, and we were a part of such a great team. We were surrounded by the best of the best, and that just challenged us to level up. And I've always had that mentality. I've never been on a losing team, like ever, like since growing up. So my kids have a standard to live up to, but I
no pressure.
No pressure. But at the University of South Carolina, it didn't stop there as far as winning. We brought the first national championship in any sport to the University of South Carolina. My senior year. Yes. And South Carolina just shaped me as far as just competing amongst the best, challenging yourself to continue to be the best, and just exposed me on a national level on just competing against the best in the world and understanding that who you are lining up with every single day at practice and at meets are the same people who are winning Olympic medals. And so it just had the mindset of, again, being the best, being around the best, and getting the best results. And that's the mentality that I just have, and it's rooted in from childhood, and it just continued through South Carolina into who I am today.
That's such a
What
testament to surrounding yourself with the people that inspire you of who you want to become. You know, we always talk about it and it can be a little cliche, but that just proves right there. Like you're like, I surrounded myself with people who made me level up and allowed me to be the best that I could possibly be. And obviously it worked. I mean, and you were probably doing the same for them. But it
Hello.
was yeah, I mean,
Yeah. You know what I
right?
mean?
yeah.
Use a little give
Yeah.
and take. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, I have two questions. What did you run in college? Like, what was your distance? Because I know you're mostly known for the 100 meter. And then outside of athletics, you were also good academically. So, I want you
Yeah.
to kind of transition into that too.
Well, I mean, I was valedictorian of 6th grade. Uh,
With a hair
and,
flip.
Yeah.
it's important for people to understand that I'm multifaceted.
Yes.
But my academics have been important, as well. I can run fast, but yes, I am also smart, and I love. I saw the movie Big, and I saw the movie Boomerang, and they were doing advertising and marketing and coming up with these cool things, and I was like, I want to do that. And so I started focusing on marketing and advertising in college. So I've always fueled all the areas of who I am. The sports stick out a little bit more just because it's more public facing, but I have a few layers to myself, because it's always important for you just to stay in control of your choices. Who I am as a track athlete and now as a coach is one thing. But if I want to change directions, pivot, I always have that option because I'm more than that. So my parents always instilled that, just making sure the foundation of who you are is the common thread in everything you do. But and it was important because it came to a point after finishing school that I was injured, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue to run at that point. So I went to graduate school, and I worked in New York on Madison Avenue. So it took some time for me to get back to the sport, but I had that, that option because I stayed on top of, the choices that I was able to make for myself.
So when you went to New York, did you always kind of know in the back of your mind after this injury and in this chapter of my life, I know for sure I'm getting back into it? Or was it something where you left it and you came back to it later? Or did you
Oh
always kind of know
man.
you're going to come back?
No, no, no. Like once I left, I didn't think I was coming back. Because at
What
that
was your
point,
injury?
I had a bad hamstring. And so my sister, she tore her quad in college, and that was career ending for her. And then
Wow.
by the time I graduated, I was nursing a hamstring injury. So I wasn't 100%, when I graduated. And it takes time and money to train. The 2004 Olympic Games was coming up in 2 years after I had graduated. So I just didn't feel like I was physically prepared to train at that level. And I went to focus on the other side of me, and went and worked at Y&R New York, one of the top ad agencies in the world. I had a great client working on, managing Xerox and, $1 million marketing budgets and advertising budgets, TV campaigns, print. I had a blast. And I started thinking about running again because I was watching my teammates who I train with every day make the 2004 Olympic team, make the 2005 World Championship team. And I line up with them every day in college. And so it was, just a reminder of like who you are and your capabilities and your thresholds, and just understanding that, wait a minute, you have the talent and you are enough to achieve the things that you said you wanted to do in that space. So I just started to just think about going back to running, and I really quit my job. And 2 years later, I made the Olympic team.
So how long were you in New York?
4 years.
Okay. And then when did you decide that you were going to run again? And like you quit your job, trained, and made in 2 years, like you got
I know.
yourself ready for the Olympics.
I know. Okay, wait.
My
There
mind
wasn't.
is blown.
I know. I know. I don't want anyone quitting their jobs to make an Olympic team, first of all, without a plan. And but let me just say, it wasn't 4 years that I was in New York. It was 4 years that I had taken off from training. So I did the 2 years in graduate school. I was still in South Carolina at that time because all my friends were still there. I didn't want to leave college yet. And then I moved to New York, and I stayed in New York for 2 years. So I worked at Y&R for 2 years before starting to think about running again. And yeah, I went through a very bad breakup. That at that time I was planning a wedding, and it made me just understand, like, I was in isolation at one point, and it just made me focus on the things that I wanted, the values that mattered to me. And I just started to hold myself accountable to who I said I was and the things that I believed. And that was the key difference that gave me enough courage and faith to even do something like quit my job. But I just held myself accountable to the things that I said that I was and that I believed in. And then I applied it. Moved to North Carolina because that's where the coach was that trained Olympians. That's where the training partners were. And I just changed the mindset of every single day, every single action going towards making this Olympic team. And yeah, it really happened in 2 years.
So breakups can be a blessing.
Yeah, breakups can be, yeah. And then, of course, I have David now. So, but 2 years of full-time training before making the Olympic team.
Wow.
What an incredible journey. I mean, how you were like 26?
Yeah, I was.
Like,
I was 26. I was 25 actually when I started training. No, you're right. I was 26. Look at you doing the math.
you know,
Okay.
well, we're
not-
about the
we're
same
not dumb
age. We're about the
blondes.
same age.
Yeah.
So, I'm just, yeah. But I mean,
Oh,
but
by the way, when you
Yeah.
did the intro, I just put it all together. Like the dumbbell, like, dumb blonde. I'm sorry, but I was like,
Oh, I got it.
but anyway, neither here nor there.
But 20, like, to have all of that journey in your life or that experience in your life by 26, and then you make the Olympic team. And I mean, just fascinating how you working on Madison Avenue, that's a big deal. Like, you're a boss ass bitch, Mechelle. You are.
She's like, cut there.
Listen, okay,
She's like,
can we
and we're
make that a
done.
clip? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, working, like, you've lived the dream of so many before the age of 26, working on Madison Avenue, being in the Olympics, like, okay, being a national champion. So pretty great.
I do think something that came up from this past Olympics is the visibility of how hard a life can be for someone pursuing the Olympics with, like, hey, we sometimes have 2 jobs and we're training full time to do this thing. So in those 2 years when you were training, because you had been working full time in New York, what did that look like as far as like making money, making ends meet, and still being able to train?
Oh, I mean, I had to have that conversation with my mother because it was like, hey, Mom, I got this great idea. It's going to work, but I need you to invest. And I need you to invest in my dreams because I was 26 working on Madison Avenue. And at the time, when you were an account executive at 25 years old, you were making about $25,000. So you weren't saving. Yes, I'm telling you back then, and I'm going to go ahead and
Wait, you made $25,000 working on Madison Avenue?
We were making $25,000 to $30,000 as account executives. If you look at the Mad Men episodes, and I mean, we're in there making global campaigns, and we are getting paid at that
Eating
entry
ramen
level.
for dinner.
Yes.
Yeah. Living in a closet.
Yeah.
Yes. But you're working on Madison Avenue.
Man.
So where were the 2008 Olympics? I can't remember.
They were in Beijing, and
Okay.
I was like, Mom, I'm going to need you to invest in my dream of getting to Beijing, and I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to need you to give me financial support in the meantime. So yes, I got financial support that first year because I ended up making a world championship team in 2007, which made me get sponsors, and I didn't need my mom anymore. But for 9 months, I relied heavily on my mom's support in addition to working part-time and training full-time.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So 2007, if I have my stats right here, you won gold in the 4x100 World Championships, and then you got silver in both the 4x100 and the 100 meter at the Pan Am.
Yeah. So that first year, you're coming off of 4 years off, and you're training, and you're changing your whole mental, physical, emotional being of going from a 9 to 5, happy hours, New York Minute lifestyle, to waking up, weight room 3 hours, track 3 hours, recovery another hour, to the way you eat, your supplementation, like everything is drilled into making this moment. And so when I first started competing again, I was losing way more than I was winning. And it was, of course, those moments where it was like, what did I just do? And, your mom being like, how's everything going? It's like, great.
Yeah, she's like, how's it
Yeah, it's going
going?
great, investor. It was a 9 months of just pure commitment, like highest level of discipline, a tremendous amount of consistency, the biggest amount of faith, and then just moving every single day and holding yourself accountable to the highest degree. Every single action, every single detail matters. You're either moving forward or you're going backwards, and there's no neutral position. And it's just being really true to that thought process. And so everything, you just got to think about your habits. You have to be feeding the habits that have to be bigger, than the fear, than the doubt, than the hard moments, because those moments are going to come and you're just going to have to take them for the ride. But you have to make sure that in that moment, your toolbox is full with the things that you're saying to yourself, the quotes that you have ready, because you've been reading the books, you've been listening to the podcast. You just have everything ready to for those moments. And in 2007, it was that moment that was going to either put me on the right side of this journey or the wrong side. And it was that world championship. Just the team, the trials to make that team. And I just remember crossing the finish line, and I made the final by a thousandth of a second. And that comes back to that every single day decision and habit of what side that you're going to end up on. And I just ended up on the right side and ended up making the team in the final, went on to be on the Pan Am team and get sponsors and win gold on the 4x1 World Championships. But like you said earlier, Lindsay, I'm a sprinter. I'm a full, explosive, powerful human being, like a woman spider person. Elastic, like a true elastic being is who I am. So I made the team for the 100. And then, of course, I ran the relays as well.
Wow.
So that was your first Olympics you had been to. What was that experience like? Because you've been to a couple after, and as a coach too, but like that very first Olympics, like if you had to describe it in a couple words, like what is that?
Oh, I mean, surreal for sure. I mean, I remember the moment where I walked in the stadium because first of all, I didn't even find out I was running until 2 days before. Because when you make it, after I made the World Championship team, it was a year later for the Olympic Games. And I was like, God, I'm so happy for this World Championship. But, the Olympic Games are what I really, really want. And I was injured for 4 months. I didn't train. So, I felt like God was just like, okay, well, if you say you're faithful, I'm going to test you at the highest degree. Like, you're going to have to get tested. Like, if you're trying to be the best in the world, the 1%, then your details and your faith and the habits and your values, that means that has to equal that same level. And so I got tested in a way that, like, is your faith 1%? Are you the 1% of being the most faithful? Are you the 1% of being the most disciplined? And I got tested in that way, being injured for 4 months and not touching the track. But I bounced back from that, ended up making the team for the relay pool. And you don't know if you're on the team or not. They took 7 of us for the relay pool. And 2 days before the event, I found out that I was actually running, which was great because I never told my mom that was an option. And she landed on that same day. And
Oh, wow.
yes, like she had no idea what I was going through. But her ticket was booked and she was in China. But it was great because I actually did get to run. But that moment of just walking into the stadium was like, wow, I really am here. Like literally 2 years ago, I was in the cubicle, signing off on media buys. And here I am as one of the top 4 women in the U.S. representing, this 4x100 meter relay team. So it was pretty bizarre.
Oh, I just got chills.
No, it's that type of moment. Like, it doesn't seem like what just happened. That's all you're asking yourself.
Like an out of body almost. Like you're not actually there.
But gratitude. Like, because it could have been anybody else. But then you have to reverse that and be like, it can be you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why not you? Yeah.
You put in all that hard work. So then how did the Olympics end up for you?
Well, we were, it's always the rivalry between Jamaica and U.S. when it comes to the relays. And they swept the podium in 100. And so they were, the gold medal favorites. But you never know in the relays. You got to get the baton around. We are fast, just like they are. But it's crazy because we both ended up DQ'd and a whole nother country won the gold medal. So we got DQ'd in a semifinal, which I ran second leg, and we dropped the baton from third to fourth. The Jamaica team got DQ'd in the final, but the 2008 games was actually the first time the men's and women's relay teams both got DQ'd. Like, the men got DQ'd on the same pass from 3 to 4, 20 minutes before we did. So, yeah.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my Olympic experience, my first Olympic Games experience. But at the same time, like, I was there, and that was bigger than the disappointment, because the disappointment was definitely the disappointment. Of course, I want to be like, to this day, I still think about the fact that I don't say I'm an Olympic gold medalist, so I'm an Olympic medalist. I say I'm an Olympian. And it's like, but I'm still grateful for that moment.
Yes. I was going to say, I know we're skipping a few years here, but you're talking about the baton and the handoff. And I know that that's kind of your specialty, isn't it? Like, that's something that you drill with a lot of the people that you coach now. Cause you fast forward again, you were the head relay coach for the women, the 4x100 this year. And I just saw a lot of videos and things of you working and drilling that handoff. And it's probably like that PTSD of the DQ going on there.
Yeah. I mean, as the coach now for the 4x100, my heart stopped 3 times. Actually 4, because I want her to get out the blocks first. And I'm like, okay, it's no false start. We're good. And then you got the 3 handoffs. But it's interesting because everyone thinks the 4x100 is about speed, but it's definitely an equal value of skill. And as the head coach, I've just been making sure we identify that the skill piece is very significant, and have just been working on what that looks like. And so we just been putting a lot of attention on baton speed. You want to make sure that the speed, that you have in between, that's your job as the athlete. My job as the coach is to manage the speed in the zones. And I've just been focusing on that, and just making sure we have a process that they understand. We're speaking the same language, we're moving the same way, we're executing with the same ideals. So that when I have the short amount of time that I have with them, because keep in mind, the Olympic trials are in, June, and then 4 weeks later, you're at the Olympic Games or World Championships, and you only have about 4 days to work with the actual people that make the team. And so you're thinking about 3 to 12 reps total before you go out there. And the same way that you all are watching the relay for the first time, I am too.
So after you were done with the Olympics, I know that you started Track Girls. And how did you get into coaching? How did you get involved in this side of the sport? And have you always been, or is it something that like later on you were like, I need to be back, I need to be the one coaching?
Oh no, I never thought that. I would just say that I was just talking about this earlier today, is your actions today build your future. And I got a call. They called me about 2015. So I had been retired for 5 years. In that 5 years of retirement, and I say from sport, I went back into marketing. I started Track Girls, the nonprofit, because I still want to attach my skill in marketing and branding with the sport. Because of course, it's something that you're blessed with, is your gift, but you just have to shift it a little bit. You can still, even though I can't be the fastest woman in the world, it's like, how am I still using that gift to make a meaningful difference? And I just found that through starting Track Girls, the nonprofit, just making sure the same access points that I was provided, that I'm being that stand-in for girls to have that opportunity for personal development through the sport. But then I also got a call in that 5 years just saying, hey, are you interested? We're looking for a woman to be a part of our leadership team and come back and coach the relays. And would you want to apply? And I was like, yeah. As they called me like on a random Tuesday at my desk, like, I'm like, of course I may want to coach again. And I have been coaching, at for sure, like, coaching, and you always are teaching your skill. But I had never coached the relays. But I've been doing the relays and winning relays since I was 16 years old. So if I knew one thing, it was how to win a relay. And so I've been coaching since 2015, and I became the head coach in 2022.
Nice. 2015, 2020. And what did that look like? So you had obviously been there. They wanted you to be on the leadership staff asking you in 2015. So you're giving advice, you're advising, you're helping people, but wasn't to the full extent of a head coach. So what was that transition to head coach?
Yeah, I mean, so as the assistant coach, I'm still coaching, and however, I'm not making the final decision. So when it comes to the relay coaching, you are responsible for selecting the athletes, selecting the order. We have 3 relays, so you have the 4x100, but you also have the 4x400, and then we have a mixed relay, 2 men, 2 women. So you're managing, 3 different relay pools of 6 to 8 athletes, and so times 3, and then you have agents and coaches, and so you just have to manage that. I look at.
You're the head coach for all 3 of those?
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
On the women's
okay.
side.
Yeah.
And so you just have to, as the assistant, it's different national teams throughout the year. And so you're the assistant, I'm the high school level, the high school level national teams, the best high schoolers. I'm going to manage those relays on site, and I'm assisting the head coach on site for the bigger national teams, such as the Olympic Games or World Championships or Pan Am Games. Those are our big 3. So think about the assistant as managing the outside of the big 3 of those teams. Once I became the head coach in 2022, now I make the final decision. And that's
It
where
all
it gets tricky.
stops with you. Yeah.
That's where it gets tricky, because I will say that being the head coach, as the assistant, actually, you can say, well, I'll get back to you on that when I have to talk to, the head coach, and it's his decision, but I'll let him know. As the head coach, though, they know you're making the final decision, so you have no way out. You gotta have those hard conversations. Who's not running. But I think the biggest thing that I was able to do was just to apply a process, like have a process. I did like a SWOT analysis, and I saw the opportunity on, how we could be better. And I started to apply that process, and it was working. We were winning. I mean, winning like upsets, like, and so it's been challenging, because when you come in and change your culture, again, like I said earlier, you're talking about people who have a mindset of top 4, or I beat this person. And as a head coach, it was important for me just to establish that value on the skill side. So I would say my biggest contribution as a head coach was establishing a tangible process that would support decision-making, and make it so that everyone understands the expectation of the USA relays and the way we work.
What was my original question was going to be like, what do you think you implemented that has allowed for so much success? And you guys won the gold, obviously, but what was the biggest challenge? Because that's a big, even though you'd been an assistant for quite a few years, stepping in, like you said, to that role is a big deal. And I'm sure everything didn't go smoothly, because it never does.
Yeah.
What have been your biggest learnings or takeaways? Or what will you do differently for the next Olympics?
Oh, I said, okay.
Well, it's a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, I was like, but I got it. I'm sticking here. First, I would say a challenge is, of course, I'm the first woman to ever be in this role. So you got to tell men no, and very powerful men, no. So that's one component.
So they've always had a male coach lead the female relays as well. So you're the first female.
Yep.
It's a big deal.
Yep. So
if there's anyone that can do it, Mechelle, it's you.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge, stepping in and them, having a woman and at the helm of just making those decisions. And I would say another challenge is you have to get the team to trust you and to buy in because you're dealing with the fastest women in the world. I mean, big personalities and in their own right, coming in as the best. And sometimes you have to convince them that you can't do it all. Like, we want to win. And in order to win, it's going to be some sacrifices. But the common thread is we need to win as a team. So you may need to run a leg that is not your first choice. You may have to pass the baton or receive the baton from somebody who you may not want to hang out with outside of practice. But the one thing that you have to make sure is that you have people who won't compromise the goal. And that was one thing coming in. It was like getting everybody on the same page. Like, you want to win? You want to win? You want to win, right? I'm making sure because, yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So now we know how we got to move because our choices and our actions and our decisions all come back to this. And that's going to be the case for me. And that's going to have to be the case for you. So that was a challenge, just building that trust and getting them to buy in. Because, in 2023, I woke up and changed the order the day of the final. And it was just like, okay, look, it's the same process. We've been working on the process. It's the same thing. My job as the coach is to establish the marks of the takeoff mark, like when the outgoing runner moves and the incoming runner is coming in. Trust me to do my job. You just do your job. Read the mark, accelerate, push your hand back. It will work. And it's been working. I would say in Paris, I think when it comes to the decision making, I've made some great decisions. I think that one thing that I will improve is procrastinating the obvious. Like, if I really don't want somebody to run and I know that I don't want them to run, and I'm like, oh, and I'm, you go through this time of considering their case, of why that should be different. But just having that conversation as soon as possible. Always read that quote that if you're going the wrong direction on the train, it's better for you to get off sooner than later. And I just got off at the last stop and had a long way to travel back.
So wait, so you were talking about when you're in the Olympics, you found out 2 days before there were 7 of you and you made it. So that was your job in Paris. So when did you have 7 athletes go and then you chose you chose the final runners 2 days, or when did you make that decision?
Ooh. Well, I knew who my final runners should be. It's just that I was in a situation where an athlete didn't agree with a decision. And you're making decisions day before because you have a schedule. So the prelims may be the day before, the finals the next day. So I tell them as soon as possible, because we have to practice a certain way. So I'm very intentional on how we practice. Before, it may be like, we're practicing all these different ways. And when you get there, for myself as an athlete 2 days before, I'm like, we practice so many different ways. I don't know, but at least we're practicing the same way. You know how I'm thinking. But it was this one in the 4x400, the day of, I just had an athlete that didn't agree with what my decision was, and I actually changed my mind. And that was one experience where I just had to learn that it was very important for you to either stick with what you said or not. And when I came down to the warm up, I'm looking around and I'm realizing that based on if I was to stick with this athlete running, then it would compromise my decision-making process, because no matter the math that I did, this person wouldn't make my top 4. And I was going to compromise that in the future because they know my process is based on stats, it's based on baton speed, it's based on these things. And it didn't qualify. And so I was in a space that was hard because I had given my word. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh my gosh, like, I gave my word, and that was the hardest thing to go against, because now you're going to have that ding. Like, you said one thing and you did another, and that was either going to go against my decision-making process, or it was going to go against my word as a human being, which is terrible.
Yeah.
So it's a lose-lose, right? And it just came down to literally 10 minutes before we had to check in, and I told the athlete they weren't running, and it was the worst experience as a coach that I have had. And so although we went on to break the American record, win the gold medal, I have to take along that experience with that medal, with that memory, with that record comes that same experience of you telling an athlete minutes before. And that's something terrible for me. It's something terrible for her.
Yeah.
And something that I'll just have to carry for the rest of my life.
It's interesting hearing you talk through these processes, because you think
that
of,
is intense. Like, it brings it. Oh, go ahead, Linz. We can't hear you.
I don't know if I cut out. Oh,
you
sorry.
did. Go ahead.
I was saying it's interesting to hear her talk through this process, because you think of everyday decisions that humans have to make that aren't Olympic coaches. And obviously you're on a large platform that your decisions are definitely going to affect many. And your like intuition and integrity with your like operational. So like, it's like the head and the heart, right? And so I think
100% to hit the heart.
So much.
Yeah.
It was 100% to hit the heart. The heart is fighting for that person. Like, I know you could do it. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. But the head is like, well, based on your process, you want to break a world record. You have the 4 people who you think could break the world record, and she's not in that. But you know she can step up. She stepped up in the past. And, you know, even though this Olympic Games, she didn't perform as well as she wanted to in her open event, she can still perform even better on the relay. Like, you're going through all these things, and I love that you explained it that way, because that was the issue. And I think, as going back to, like I said, being a woman, your empathy is a strength, but at the same time, you have to manage it, because, you know, I related in that moment of being that athlete who may not perform as best as they were expected to, but you know you have more to give. But it's more to you using that as a way to say that I should be this top 4.
Yeah.
And that's just what it came down to. Performance-based decision. And I had to go with my head over my heart.
And you as an individual, you're going to think about that forever. And
forever.
It is. And even though you made the right decision, or I mean, who knows what the outcome would have been, the other decision, but you made the right decision and you guys won. But it's something that you're going to think about forever. And will allow you, hopefully, to make better decisions in the future, whether it is in track and field or just like in life with your kids, with your family, right? So it's a life lesson that you're like, oh, just so impactful.
Don't procrastinate the hard conversation.
Yeah, they'll become harder. Yeah, they'll become harder. So I want to pivot a little bit away from coaching, but still sticking with the Olympics. 2 questions for you. Coolest person you met while you were there, and coolest experience you had while you were there outside of the actual coaching.
Yeah, I was.
And wait, can you say you're a gold medalist? I mean, you're the coach. Don't you get a gold medal too, or no?
Well, you know what? We get gold medals at World Championships, so I have those. But they didn't give us an Olympic medal as a coach. But yes, I am a 2-time gold-winning Olympic coach for sure.
Oh, heck yes. Yeah. Okay, I had to ask that. Okay, now answer Lindsay's questions, because those are good ones. Did you get to meet Snoop Dogg?
No. Yes. Oh, yes. So Snoop was at so the U.S. has their own training high performance center and at the games, and Snoop was there all the time. Like, he was actually training. I'm not trying to put his business out there, but he did kind of pull his hamstring one of the practices. I love Snoop though. I mean,
if Snoop is listening to our podcast, we are winning.
Oh my God.
And let's just be real. Him being a part of the Olympics made it so fun. I mean, watching him.
Good.
Yeah, so good. So good. Okay.
Snoop,
okay. So was he your favorite, or was someone else your favorite that you met?
I would say Snoop. The faves. I've never been a fave person. Like, I just like have things that I really like. It's a couple things, but then I met Don Staley. And she's, of course, a Gamecock coach. So it's, I got a little bias, extra love there. But the most memorable meeting was I had to, the first lady, Dr. Jill Biden, came to our relay camp, and I had to welcome her. Yeah. And so I had to welcome her and teach her how to pass the baton.
Oh,
So,
very
yeah,
cool.
so that was a super cool experience. Like, my favorite part of that whole thing was like seeing the whole entourage pull up. I'm talking about they pulled up in like 10 seconds. Like, 1 minute they weren't there, the next minute it was just like pow, 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 pow. I mean, the car, it's like they have to practice this. Like the way they pull up and stop at
How
the
you
same
practice
time.
passing the baton. They're
You
just
know
like,
what I'm saying? Like, that is practice, the precision, and having each car pull up and then stop at the same time and get out. And then they go out and they're like canvassing. Everyone goes to their like positions, and then it's like clear. And then she comes out. So yeah, that was super cool.
wow. Did you meet Simone Biles? I have to ask because
Oh,
I'm
wait,
a gymnast. So
that one, okay, the Simone Biles. So I was on the Village, and I was the ice baths are right outside of the Sports Medicine Center. And I'm walking past the tent, and a credential falls down, and it says Simone Biles. Like, and I'm on the outside of the tent, but the bag was put down on the ground, and you could see under the tent, it didn't come all the way down to the floor. And so I'm like, that can't be like Simone Biles for real. Like, it can't be her. So I'm like, let me walk around the tent just to see. And it was Simone Biles taking an ice bath by herself. And so I'm like, can I be that person? And so I was like, hey, Simone, it's okay for us to take a picture. And so, yeah, of course, I got a picture with Simone Biles. So I have I had some good memories of meeting some really great people. So those are my top: Snoop, First Lady, Simone, and Dawn Staley. Yes.
oh, very cool.
Oh, cool. So transitioning a little bit away from Olympics, and you hit on this briefly with track girls, but Mechelle, outside of Olympics, right? So like your day to day, you are a hustler, you are a grinder, like all these principles that you talked about that brought you to where you are now, I think apply to you every day. So what is, what's your focus on right now? Cause you got a little bit of time before the next Summer Olympics, but I know that the work happens in the off season. So where are you at right now with everything?
I know, it's like a reset. I usually look at the relay coaching in quads. The next Olympic Games is in LA 2028. So I would like to, go another 4 years. It's national teams every year. So like next year is our world championships. And then we have about 2 world championships before the next Olympic Games. So 3 major teams within the next 3 years. And then just right now, just, in the off season, I love to pour into track girls even more because I just have more time to be, in one place. So just seeing how we can continue to grow. Melinda Gates has a new grant that she just released, for nonprofit organizations helping girls just with their overall wellness. We've been doing that for, over a decade. Authentically. And so an opportunity like that, I'm focused on that so we can win a grant of that size. Just to continue to pour into our workshops. I mean, we're providing girls access to world-class education, educators, just to help with their mental and physical performance. We have grants that we give for girls just to remove any barriers for them to have access to sport in their local communities. So just pouring my time into track girls. And of course, David's going to always talk about priorities, and so my family has to.
I was just going to ask you: is Harley following in your footsteps? Is Harley like the next Olympian?
Harley is like a firecracker, yes, but she's so competitive. She is just like me, and Bane is just like David. As far as like Bane is kind and slow and. And like just moves that way. And Harley, she's just like this. Her energy is like, and just like me, as far as the cadence of how we operate and move, and our energy But I love my family. David keeps me grounded for sure. He's so ready for me to be done relay coaching because he's tired of me traveling. I mean, if I didn't have our parents, coming in, they're staying at 2 weeks to 3 weeks at a time. I'm gone up to 3 weeks, to 4 weeks, even if I go to Olympic Games and things like that. But they were able to come. My family was able to come to Paris. They've been truly supportive. They didn't even care about like the Olympic Games like that. They just wanted to go to Disneyland Paris and then go to this track meet.
This track meet.
Yeah.
This little thing.
Mm-hmm.
But once they were there, I mean, they got to be at the finish line and watch the men's 100-meter final, and they got to see a relay. But anyways, I just love my family. I want them to continue that legacy. They know my expectations of winning. And again, it doesn't have to be a W or L every weekend when they play, but it's just the attitude, the level of commitment, and just operating in your fullest potential. Like that's the space that I always want to be in. And that's how David is. But sometimes you need a break, a rest. And so I find that rest just in trying to just move slower, while I have time to not have to travel.
Yeah. You and David both do such a good job of exposing your children to many different things in life and giving them opportunities, but also like not just handing things to them. Like they have to work for it too. And
for sure.
You definitely see that with both of you, with Bane and Harley. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, he's so good as far as like the consistency, like every single day of like, you have to. And I'm like, listen now, your integrity level is super high. We can have a grace period and a margin of error and contingency. But he holds those kids accountable every single day. They know mommy like gives them, so they like when I'm home because they feel like they don't have it as hard when they just.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, so where can our listeners find you, or if they want to connect with you? Is Instagram best, or because
follow me on Instagram? I've been speaking. Like I just had 2 amazing speaking engagements, and one being Google, and one with Pacific Dental. So I just love, just speaking to leaderships and teams, women, on just what it takes to win. And when I say win, it's just going out there and taking you on that journey of just igniting behavior change, just what it takes to get the outcomes that you desire. So my focus is organizing my thoughts behind that process because I want to write my book. I want to continue to speak more and more. So just follow my journey. It's my full name. My name is spelled wrong 100% of the time. So it's M-E for Mechelle, and then my maiden name is Lewis. That's my middle name now, but I carry it because my dad, I lost him last year. But he always talked about, I always got 2 girls. So we made our maiden names our middle name so we can carry it as long as possible, Daddy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then Freeman, of course, but Mechelle Lewis Freeman on Instagram. But just, support Track Girls, also at Track Girls with a Z. Got to add a little personality with our organization. But ways that you can support us, if you can follow our journey, I would appreciate it.
Yes. And to your point, you are a busy lady, lots of speaking engagements, lots of people wanting your time and energy. And so we do appreciate you being here. And I think you did such a beautiful job going through a story of like having this faith and belief in yourself and like the why not me, but also pairing that with the persistence and the hard work and showing up every day. So you live it, you breathe it, you speak to it, like you are that. So I hope that people feel a little fire under their butts after they listen to this.
Yeah.
Maybe not going to the Olympics, but whatever that Olympic is for you.
I was just going to say, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to make the Olympic team or win a gold medal, or whether you're just trying to change your life in a healthier way. It's the same. It's the same principles. It's the same waking up every day. And like you said, living with that integrity and that consistency and doing things when you don't want to do them. It doesn't It's the same. It's the same. I talk about Simone Biles a lot when I coach my kids because I coach tumbling. And it's like the only way she became the greatest of all time is by showing up every single day, even when she didn't want to. So whether you're on whatever journey you're on, it's the same. And hearing it from your mouth and hearing just like how passionate you are about it is just makes me fired up and it excites me. So I hope our listeners feel the same. I know they're going to feel the same.
Yeah.
And
But you also said something really quick. I just want to say, because with Simone Biles, what's also important is recognizing when something isn't working. And we
Mm.
watched Simone Biles go through a moment that no one understood, but she knew. And you have to, like I said, when I had those 4 months off of being injured, and you're going to get challenged to being like, if you're trying to be the best at something or do something, you have to make sure you know who you are and listen to yourself, because you have to know what decisions are best for yourself, even when it goes against the grain. So having that ability to quit my job and say I can make an Olympic team, having that ability to say I need to step away from this because I have the twisties and something can dangerously happen and I need to figure this out before I'm able to come back and win the Olympic gold medal and continue to go on my trajectory of my career and who I am. So just recognizing those moments for yourself, like talk to yourself. The voice you hear the most in your life is going to be yourself. So just respect yourself, honor yourself, and really listen to who you are.
You just gave me full body chills, Mechelle. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So you guys, we are going to link Michelle's Instagram and all of the places you can find her. It was such an honor to have you on. Thanks for taking time out of your busy life to do this. We've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
And to us, you're just like, Mechelle, you're
Mechelle,
David. And it's like, yes, you're like, but I mean, it's just remarkable to see all that you've done and what you continue to do. And so thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being on.
And you guys, thanks for having me, and keep doing what you're doing. You're starting a new adventure and taking that risk on the things you see for yourself. So I look forward to seeing how this continues to develop. But, keep doing what you all are doing and believing in yourself and taking those risks.
Yeah, we just got to get Snoop Dogg to tune in. Then we're good.
Then we're golden. Then we've made it.
You guys can find us. You guys can find us on Instagram, 2 Dumbbell Blondes, or you can find us online at 2dumbleblondes.com. Until next time, guys, thank you so much again, Mechelle. We will see you then.
Bye, guys.